Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Fiery Tales, the channel where we explore historic fires, their outcomes, and the lessons learned for us in the 21st century. Today, I want to talk about Our Lady of Angels Catholic School Fire in Chicago, Illinois. Now, this is one of the more commonly known fires, but my hope is to quickly go through a review of what happened that day, learn about the response from the fire department, and again discuss some of the lessons learned and things that this fire changed about fire codes and response in the United States. As always, if you enjoyed this, be sure to hit like as we go through and leave any comments or other feedback that you have. So Our Ladies of Angels Catholic School Fire happened on December 1st, 1958. And tragically, 95 individuals died as a result of this fire. There were 92 students and 3 nuns. Of the students, there were 53 girls and 34 boys that perished in the fire. And Our Lady of the Angels School Fire in Chicago was so tragic that one of the firefighters from Ladder 35 noted in one of the contemporary news articles that nobody, quote, nobody in the world would believe what went on there less than 3 hours ago when he was discussing the aftermath of the fire. So kind of the setup, what are we looking at in terms of this school? So this was a Catholic school run by the Sisters of Charity of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and there were about 1,600 students enrolled there in grades kindergarten through 8th grade. Now this was part of a really large Catholic parish, and there was this complex of buildings which included the school, the church, rectory, and all types of other things. It's located in the Humboldt Park area of the west side of Chicago, and the school was located on the northeast corner of West Iowa Street and North Avers Avenue. Now, a couple things about construction of this school. It was exterior brick with the interior combustible wood. It had been kind of built up over time. The wing that we're going to talk about, the north wing, was a 2-story building that was built in about 1910, and that's where the primary fire and all the devastation and things happened. But there are several other additions that are added onto the school. There's a south wing. They kind of form this almost like U-shape school building. Now, the school does not have a fire alarm, no heat detectors, no fire-resistant stairwells, no fire doors, no sprinklers. There are 2 unmarked fire alarm switches, but they were in the south wing of the school, and they are just a local alarm. They did not report to the fire department. There were reports that there were 4 fire extinguishers in this north wing, but all were mounted 7 feet off the floor so that the kids couldn't mess with them, but also so that no one could actually get to them. The fire escape, there was a fire escape and evacuation plans, but the fire escape for this north wing, for a large portion of it, passes through the main corridor of the building. So if there was a fire, which there was, that quickly became filled with smoke. There was no limits on the number of students in a single classroom. It's estimated that some classrooms in the school had as many as 64 students. The nearest firebox for the alarm system was located a half a block away. And the windows for the second floor, you got to picture how big this was, were 25 feet off the ground. So anybody who's trying to exit those would have to use a ladder or jump. And another thing about this that we're going to talk about more is that all of the doors, the interior doors like the classroom doors and things, had glass transoms above the door for ventilation, and these are opened on a regular basis. So you can guess that they're going to let air and eventually toxic gases and heat and things through them because they're open. Now, in terms of fire codes, the school was built before the Chicago city updated their fire codes in 1949. So while there were major changes that happened that year, this school was grandfathered. So a lot of things like fire-resistant stairwells and fire alarms and things like that were not required. In fact, not long before the fire happens, the school did undergo a fire inspection and passed because, again, it was grandfather for a lot of these new fire codes, and the school system, the Catholic school system, didn't take the money to upgrade the school because of this grandfather clause. Now, what about the fire itself? So the fire again happens on December 1st, 1958, and it begins in the basement of the north wing sometime between 2 and 2:20 p.m. Now, they think the fire originated at the foot of the basement stairs in this north wing, and you have to imagine that this stairwell basically runs from the basement all the way up to the second floor. It's this big open stairwell. Now, on the first floor, there is a door between the stairwell and the main corridor, but on the second floor, there is not. The fire did originate at the bottom of these stairs in a trash barrel that was used for cardboard. It's believed it smoldered for about 20 minutes before it was detected. So what happens is that smoke actually fills the stairwell from the smoldering of the fire before anyone noticed. Now, there's also, from this area in this basement, this open pipe chase that goes up to the cock loft above the second floor classroom. So basically, not only is the smoke going up to the stairwell and into this main corridor that's open, it's also going straight up into the attic. And with that smoke comes heated gases that we're going to talk about later. Now, at 2:25, we get the first report of the fire. 3 students who were on an errand for a teacher see smoke in the main corridor on their way back. They're on the opposite end of the building from the stairwell, and they report it to their teacher. Now, the teacher goes to evacuate her room, but can't. Okay, so they just stay in the room, and there's no alarm given. Now, down in this basement, as this is happening, this first initial reports, we know that this area contained what the fire department later called tarred building paper and a lot of petroleum-based waxes and things that are starting to light off at this period. And they produce this toxic, thick, oily black smoke that really is going to have a big impact on the ability of people to get out, and really is really overcoming and really dark, dense smoke that makes it difficult for people to evacuate. We think soon after this initial report from these 3 students that the wooden stairs on this stairwell burst into flames. There's information that they had been refinished with all of this petroleum-based products a lot of times, and basically that stuff just lights off. So now we have the entire stairwell on one end on fire. And soon after this, the school janitor, James Raymond, sees the fire, and what he does is he is down in the basement. He evacuates the basement, and he says that he talked to the housekeeper and asked her to call the fire department, and then he goes back to the school because the housekeeper was located in the building next door, and starts to help with evacuation. And he later gets some criticism for not following up that the fire department was called, but he also is incredibly heroic in the efforts that he takes to help evacuate the school, and is responsible for saving the lives of quite a few students that day. So after he's starting with these evacuations, teachers in the south wing, they start to see smoke coming into their part of the building, and they begin to evacuate. And their evacuation is relatively successful, and they actually pull the alarm that's located in the south wing, which was much newer, but it doesn't activate until they pull it a second time, okay? And that's when people in the building actually start to get notification that there is a fire. But of course, by this time, the students and teacher in the north wing are trapped because of this fire that's coming up through the stairwell. Now, again, the students on the first floor are protected by this wooden door, but there's none on the second floor for the stairwell that's now on fire and basically serving as a chimney. And you remember we talked about those transom windows. We know a lot of those were propped open, so by now this smoke, this petroleum-based smoke, is now filling the rooms. And at some point soon after this, that pipe chase, which led to the attic, has been filling the attic with superheated gases. And what happens is their fire breaks out in the cockloft, and soon afterward flashes. And basically the flash is above all of the classrooms because there's this big open attic. And when that happens, this fire flashes in the attic and basically bursts through like ventilation grates, these transom things, onto the second floor. And it moved through these transom windows, either ones that were open, breaking one that are closed. And this is really when the students in the second floor start to realize that there's a lot of danger from this fire. But they are trapped from the amount of fire and the amount of smoke. And it's estimated that there are 329 students and 5 nuns trapped on the second floor within really only a few minutes after anyone notices the fire, with little chance of escape. So now what does the response to this fire look like? So the fire department actually isn't notified until 2:42 p.m. So the housekeeper, for some reason, didn't follow up on the janitor's report. And someone finally notifies the fire department at 2:42 when the alarm in the south wing is going off. The fire department arrives within 4 minutes, but the call, because someone heard the call and heard the alarm and called it in from across the street, the fire department thought the call was at the rectory. So they arrive in 4 minutes, but they're at the wrong spot. So then they have to turn around and go back. We know that by this time, the time that they get to the school, the fire had been burning for 40 minutes. So you can guess at how well developed and advanced the fire was into the building. Now, quickly, the fire department upgrades the response, seeing what's going on. We know that they activated the second alarm at 2:47 p.m. and then the third, fourth, and fifth alarm, which was basically all available units, was activated at 2:57 p.m. So within 15 minutes, we go from an initial alarm activation until to a fifth alarm, which is a major incident for the city of Chicago. CFD, Chicago Fire Department, immediately transitions to rescue mode. They do not worry about trying to extinguish the fire because they know the number of people that are trapped. Later, NFPA reviewed this and determined that this was definitely the right call. Now, how do they begin these evacuations? Of course, with ladders. On the north side, they're able to access with ladders. On the south side, there's actually a fence around this like courtyard area. So the fire department has to eventually back one of the engines through the gate of this fence because it's locked in order to get in to set up ladders on the south side of the building. So that, again, delays them for more minutes. By the time the fire department's getting there, it's already this like horrific scene. Children are dead, are dying. They're jumping out of the windows. Some are on fire. Many, they can see them trapped up at these windows. We know that this flashover, the one that consumes the attic, happens at 2:55 p.m. So about the time that the response is really getting going, they can see the flashover occur. And then 2 minutes later, the roof collapses in on the building. So that really seals the fate of anybody who's still left in there. So, you know, the fire department gets there at 2:42, or the alarm goes out at 2:42. It takes them 4 minutes. That's 2:46. They have to then reposition from the rectory 2 more minutes, and the flashover's at 2:55. So basically, we're talking about a 5-minute or a little bit more window when rescues could actually occur. Now, the fire department pulls a whole lot of people out. The initial response was Engine 85, Truck 35, Battalion 18, Squad 6, and Patrol 7. We know that the box alarm at 2:44 brings 3 more engines, 2 trucks, a battalion chief, and 2 fire marshals. Eventually, 28 engine companies, 7 truck companies respond, as well as several squads, patrols, chiefs, ambulances, the doctor, and Chicago Police Department sends 100 officers. This group rescues 160 children out of a fire that day, which is actually the largest number of individuals rescued by Chicago Fire Department in a single day. So it was really superb operations on the part of the fire department and the number of people rescued. Unfortunately, though, again, 95 individuals perish, and the rest are able to get out through their own power or through other avenues, or being rescued by civilians. What happens is triage is set up at a candy store across the street for people who were brought out. That's actually where the first call for the fire came from. And it's reported that these firefighters, policemen, and ambulance workers that are going here to collect individuals taken to the hospital or the dead bodies are just weeping at the devastation that they see and the number of injured and dead that they're finding. Some interesting things happen. We know that a nun in one of the classes actually makes it to the stairwell with her students, but they freeze, so she has to roll them down the stairs and gets most of them to safety. The janitor, he works with some of the priests and some parents that rush to the scene in rooms 209 and 207. He's able to get in through the windows, and they break open this locked emergency door and rescue a large number of students from that room. One of the more tragic things is in room 212, half the students and the teacher die from smoke inhalation. They find them without any burns or anything, but all were overcome with smoke at the windows before they were able to be pulled out. And it really is this kind of like helpless situation. All the firefighters reported that they really felt like there was nothing they could do to save anyone that day. The fire really continues for 3 hours, but really within the first 10 minutes of the response, maybe a little bit longer, any viable rescues are already already over. So really, this heroic rescue of 160 people happens 10, maybe 20 minutes at the most after the time that the fire department shows up. Now, the aftermath of this is pretty substantial. The news, of course, immediately picks it up, and actually there's a live broadcast while the fire's going on from an officer in a Chicago Police Department helicopter circling the scene. There's national TV coverage. They actually break into these TV stations. 27 of the children, their funerals are held very soon after the fire at the local armory, following up a funeral that already occurred for the 3 nuns who was held at the church. And it's a huge funeral with thousands participating, and really touches on the nation's heartstrings as it's really covered. Now, officially the cause is unknown, but it's possible it may have been set. A kid later comes forward and admits to setting the fire, but it's thrown out for lack of evidence, and it's really a complicated situation, so there's really never been a cause known for the fire. But in 1959, NFPA released a report about the fire, and it blamed the city's authorities and the Archdiocese of Chicago for, quote, housing their children in fire traps, end quote. So really they lay the blame at the deaths at the city of Chicago and the Archdiocese of Chicago for allowing the schools to operate despite inadequate fire safety standards. What we know is that this leads to dramatic change in those fire safety standards in terms of the NFPA codes, local codes, Chicago codes, state codes. Chicago strengthens ordinances Illinois amends its state fire code to basically remove the grandfather exemption. Chicago requires fire alarm boxes at the front of schools and public venues, interior fire alarms connected to the fire alarm system. Sprinklers were required in schools that were deemed vital. And eventually this kind of goes across the country, and within a year, over 16,000 schools, it's estimated, were updated to meet these new codes as a result of this fire. Now what happens is Our Lady of the Angels school is dismantled in 1959, so the year after the fire, and in 1960 a new school is opened nearby, and it operates under the same name until 1999 when it's closed and sold. I would like to thank you all for tuning in for this episode of Fiery Tales. I'd also like to thank Our Lady of the Angels Fire Memorial website for the photographs, and also for a lot of the information that I got from some original newspapers, so definitely check that out. There's a lot of great source material there. Again, thanks for tuning in. If you find value, again, hit like, subscribe, so that you can stay tuned for the latest videos as they come out. And I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a wonderful day.